High Admiral Marcus stood at the large window of his command center, his four-fingered hand resting on the cold glass as he watched the endless stream of ships moving through the capital's space lanes. 300 years of service to the Galactic Empire had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, those instincts were screaming danger. "Admiral, the latest report from Scout Fleet 7 has arrived," announced his assistant, walking into the room with a datapad. Marcus turned away from the window, his scaled face reflecting the soft blue light of the holographic displays around him. "Show me," he ordered, his voice deep and steady despite his growing concern. The assistant projected a large 3D map of the galaxy, zooming in on a spiral arm far from the Empire's core worlds. A small dot pulsed red, marking the location of a previously unknown civilization. "Humans," Marcus said the word slowly, testing how it felt. "Tell me what we know about them." "They're primitive by our standards, sir. Only reached their moon about 70 years ago." "But," the assistant hesitated. "But what?" "The speed of their advancement is unprecedented. Look at this timeline." The hologram changed, showing a graph of technological progress. Most species followed a steady curve upward over thousands of years. The human line shot almost straight up. Marcus leaned closer, his yellow eyes narrowing. "Impossible. No species develops this fast." "The data is verified, sir. They went from simple combustion engines to primitive spaceflight in less than a century. Our analysts say they're about to crack faster than light travel." The Admiral walked around the hologram, studying it from all angles. Something about these humans bothered him. In the Empire's 10,000-year history of conquering and absorbing other species, they had never seen anything like this. "Show me their conflicts," he commanded. New images appeared: battles, weapons, strategies from human history. Marcus watched as they progressed from fighting with sharpened metal to machines that could level cities. His heart beat faster as he realized what he was seeing. "They spend more resources on warfare than any species we've encountered," the assistant noted. "They've had thousands of wars among themselves." Marcus touched one of the images, expanding it. "Look at how they adapt during conflict. Each new war brings massive technological jumps. They don't just fight, they innovate." "The Council says they're nothing to worry about," the assistant mentioned carefully. "They believe we should proceed with standard subjugation protocols." Marcus slammed his fist on the desk, making the holograms flicker. "The Council is wrong. Can't they see what's in front of them?" He pulled up more data: human entertainment, stories, what they called science fiction. While other species dreamed of peace and harmony, humans imagined countless scenarios of war among the stars. They weren't just preparing for space conflict. They had been thinking about it, planning for it, for generations. "Sir," the assistant asked nervously. "Schedule an emergency council meeting," Marcus ordered, "and get me everything we have on human military doctrine." Later that day, Marcus stood before the High Council, 12 of the Empire's oldest and most powerful leaders. Their chamber was vast, designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant, but Marcus stood tall as he made his case. "Distinguished council members, I come with a warning. These humans, they're different." "Different how?" asked one council member, their voice dripping with boredom. "They're primitive, barely space-capable." Marcus activated his presentation. "Look at their history. Every time they face a challenge, they overcome it faster than should be possible. They don't just adapt. They thrive on adversity." "All species adapt," another council member dismissed. "Not like this," Marcus insisted. "Most species develop technology gradually, building on each advancement over centuries. Humans, they see something new and immediately think of how to turn it into a weapon. They're not just warriors. They're innovators of war." The council chamber filled with dismissive murmurs. Marcus felt his heart sink as he realized they weren't going to listen. "Your concern is noted, High Admiral," the head council member declared. "But we will proceed as planned." Dispatch the subjugation fleet. These humans will join the Empire, just like all the others." Marcus bowed stiffly and left the chamber. As he walked back to his command center, he couldn't shake the feeling that the Empire was about to make a terrible mistake. "Prepare my personal flagship," he ordered his assistant. "If they won't listen to my warning, I want to be there to see what happens." Looking out at the capital one last time, Marcus wondered if the Empire truly understood what they were about to face. Something told him that humanity wasn't going to be just another conquest for their glorious empire. They were going to be a wake-up call. Commander James stood in Earth's Combined Defense Center, watching as hundreds of unknown ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. The room was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment and nervous breathing of his staff. "Status report," he ordered, keeping his voice calm despite the situation. "Sir, we count over 300 alien vessels," reported Lieutenant Miller from her station. "They're bigger than anything we've ever built. The smallest one is the size of our largest carrier." James nodded, studying the massive holographic display showing the solar system. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, like a well-practiced dance. Their technology was clearly far superior to humanity's, but something about their movement caught his attention. "They're too perfect," he muttered. "Sir, look at their formation. It's like they're following a rulebook. No variation, no adaptation to the terrain." James pointed to the display. "They're not even using the gravity wells for efficient movement." The room's main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. A tall, scaled alien appeared, its yellow eyes looking down at them with clear disdain. "Primitive species," the alien announced in perfect English, making everyone jump. "We are the Galactic Empire. Your planet is now under our protection. Surrender your military forces and prepare for integration." James stepped forward. "This is Commander James of Earth's Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations, but we will not surrender our sovereignty." The alien's expression didn't change. "Resistance is pointless. Your technology is primitive. Your ships are few. Accept our generous offer." The transmission cut off. James immediately turned to his staff. "They've been watching us long enough to learn our language. What else have they learned?" "Sir, they're launching smaller ships," Miller reported. "Standard attack formation. Wait, they're following exactly the same patterns we saw in their training exercises." James smiled for the first time that day. "They don't believe we've been watching them too. Lieutenant, send attack plan Delta to all ships. And get me the mining fleet at the asteroid belt." In space, the Imperial ships moved forward with overwhelming confidence. Their formation was flawless, their technology superior in every way. They had conquered hundreds of species with these same tactics. What they didn't expect was for the human ships to scatter in completely random patterns. "The primitives are running," declared the Imperial commander. "As expected, prepare boarding parties." His words were cut off as the first human ship disappeared into an asteroid's shadow, then suddenly reappeared behind an Imperial vessel, launching everything it had. More human ships popped out from hiding spots, striking from impossible angles. "Impossible," the Imperial commander shouted. "Their ships can't make turns that tight." But they could. Human ships, smaller and more agile, darted between asteroids and debris, using manual controls instead of the automated systems the Empire relied on. Each human captain flew differently, unpredictably, making it impossible for Imperial targeting systems to track them. Back in the defense center, James watched as his plan unfolded. Send in the mining ships now. Across the battlefield, dozens of civilian mining vessels appeared. The Empire ignored them at first, until they started using their industrial cutting lasers to slice through Imperial hull armor. "Sir, it's working," Miller exclaimed. "Their shields are calibrated for military weapons. They never expected industrial equipment to be a threat." The Imperial fleet fell into chaos. Their perfect formations broke apart as human ships attacked from all directions, using mining equipment as weapons and asteroids as cover. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds found themselves being picked apart by primitive humans who refused to fight according to the rules. In his flagship at the edge of the battle, High Admiral Marcus watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. "Exactly as I feared," he said to himself. "They don't just fight. They'd rewrite the rules of warfare itself." The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it was over, half the Imperial fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest retreated in disorder, their perfect formations forgotten. Commander James stood in the defense center, looking at the aftermath displayed on the main screen. "Send a message to all Earth governments," he ordered. "Tell them we won this battle, but the war is just beginning, and we need to prepare." He turned to his staff, his face serious. "The Empire will be back, and next time, they won't underestimate us. We need to be ready." Around the room, tired faces broke into determined smiles. Humanity had faced its first interstellar battle and emerged victorious. But more importantly, they had learned something valuable. Even the mightiest empire could be beaten if you refused to fight by their rules. The Imperial War Room was silent as the holographic replay of their defeat played for the 12th time. 20 of the Empire's top military analysts watched as their perfect fleet was torn apart by ships that shouldn't have stood a chance. High Admiral Marcus stood in the shadows, watching their reactions. The analysts' scaled faces showed emotions ranging from disbelief to anger. None of them wanted to admit what they had seen. "Play it again," ordered General Rex, his clawed hands gripping the edge of the table. "Focus on their mining vessels this time." The hologram reset, showing the battle from the beginning. This time, they watched the converted mining ships, seeing how the humans had turned simple industrial tools into deadly weapons. "It makes no sense," said one analyst, shaking his head. "They took civilian equipment and turned it into military hardware in the middle of combat. Who thinks like that?" "Humans do." Marcus stepped forward, finally making his presence known. The room immediately stood at attention. "And that's just the beginning of what makes them dangerous." He walked to the hologram controls and started a new presentation. "While you've been reviewing the battle, I've been studying their history. Look at this." The hologram changed to show scenes from human wars throughout history. When humans fought with swords, someone fought to melt metal into bigger swords. When they fought with guns, they made bigger guns. But here's what's truly frightening. They also turned farming tools into weapons, kitchen supplies into armor, and everyday items into tools of war. "But that's primitive," protested an analyst. "No," Marcus corrected sharply. "That's innovation. They don't see things as just what they are. They see what things could become." He changed the display again, showing the battle formations. "Look at how they fought. Our ships move in perfect patterns, optimized over thousands of years. Their ships, each one moved differently. We couldn't predict them because they weren't trying to be perfect. They were trying to be unpredictable." General Rex stepped forward, his military medals clicking together. "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" "I'm suggesting that we've encountered something new. Most species we conquer follow patterns. They develop technology in predictable ways. They fight in ways we understand." Marcus paused, letting his words sink in. "Humans don't." He brought up footage from Earth's entertainment channels. "Look at what they watch for fun. Stories about beating overwhelming odds. Tales of smaller forces defeating larger ones. They don't just accept defeat when the enemy is stronger. They look for ways to change the rules of the game." The room was silent as the implications sank in. One of the younger analysts raised her hand. "Sir, we found something else in their data networks. They call it science fiction." She played clips from human movies and TV shows about space warfare. The room watched in growing horror as they realized these primitives had been imagining and planning for space combat for over 100 years before they even left their atmosphere. "They'd been preparing for us without even knowing we exist," Marcus said quietly. "Every story, every movie, every game. They've been training their minds to think about space warfare for generations." General Rex's face had turned a pale shade of blue. The Council needs to know about this. The Council won't listen, Marcus replied. But they'll have to after they see this. He played one final piece of footage. Human scientists examining captured Imperial technology. In just days, they had started to understand how it worked. In weeks, they might be able to reproduce it. Most species take decades to reverse engineer our technology, Marcus explained. Humans, they see new technology and immediately start figuring out how to make it better, or how to turn it into a weapon. An alarm suddenly blared through the room. A communications officer burst in, looking panicked. Sirs, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the Sol system. The humans, they're not just studying our technology. They're improving it. Marcus turned to the stunned room. And that, colleagues, is why we should be afraid. We didn't just wake a sleeping giant. We gave it our technology and dared it to do better. He looked at the new data streaming in, showing human ships already incorporating Imperial technology in ways the Empire had never considered. The question isn't whether we can beat them anymore, Marcus concluded grimly. The question is, what will they become if we force them to keep fighting? The Empire's second attack came with a force 10 times larger than the first. 5,000 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, their hulls gleaming with new armor designed to resist mining lasers. The Imperial Council had decided to crush humanity before they could grow stronger. They were 3 months too late. Commander James stood on the bridge of Earth's first star destroyer, the Phoenix, built using a combination of human ingenuity and reversed-engineered Imperial technology. The ship was ugly by Imperial standards, a mix of human and alien design that looked like it had been built by enthusiastic mechanics rather than master engineers. Multiple Imperial ships detected, reported Captain Lee from her station. They've improved their shields based on our last encounter. James smiled. Of course they did, and that's exactly what we wanted them to do. The Phoenix's bridge buzzed with activity as crews from 20 different nations worked together. The alien invasion had done something politicians had failed to do for centuries. It had united humanity against a common enemy. All Earth defense stations report ready, announced Miller, now promoted to commander herself. The Moon base has their gravity weapons charge. Mars colony reports their stealth fleet is in position. In the 3 months since the first battle, humans had taken Imperial technology and reimagined it in ways that would have horrified its original creators. They didn't try to copy it perfectly. Instead, they asked what-if questions that Imperial engineers had never considered. Launch the drones, James ordered. Thousands of small, unmanned vessels swarmed out from hidden bases across the solar system. They were based on Earth's pre-war satellite technology, too simple for Imperial sensors to take seriously. The Empire's ships ignored them, focusing on the larger human vessels. That was their first mistake. Drones in position, Lee reported, ready to initiate Operation Chaos. James took a deep breath. Begin. The drones suddenly activated powerful electromagnetic pulses, technology so primitive the Empire had stopped defending against it centuries ago. Imperial ships found their perfect formations disrupted as their secondary systems flickered. Main fleet, attack pattern Omega, James commanded. Show them what humanity has learned. The Phoenix led the charge, along with 50 other hybrid warships. They didn't move in the precise patterns the Empire expected. Each ship was piloted differently, using tactics borrowed from Earth's centuries of aerial combat. Some spun like World War I dogfighters, others moved like modern jet fighters, and some used maneuvers from video games. In his flagship, High Admiral Marcus watched with a mixture of dread and admiration. They're not just copying our technology, he reported to the Imperial Council. They're combining it with their own in ways we never imagined. The battle spread across the solar system. Imperial ships found their advanced targeting systems confused by human vessels using centuries-old radar stealth technology. Their energy weapons splashed harmlessly against shields based on Earth's old magnetic field research combined with Imperial power systems. "Sir," Lee called out, "the enemy is adapting to our countermeasures." "Good," James replied calmly. "Spring the trap." Suddenly, the moon shifted its position slightly. Imperial commanders didn't notice. Their sensors were focused on the battle. They didn't realize that humans had installed massive gravity drives beneath the lunar surface. The change in gravity was subtle, but it was enough. Imperial ships, which relied on precise gravitational calculations for their formations, found their careful movements disrupted. They dragged slightly off course, their automated systems confused by the impossible change in gravity. "All ships, full attack," James ordered. "Show them why you don't pick a fight with humans." The battle that followed would be studied by military historians for centuries. Human ships attacked from every direction, using strategies from every era of combat. Ancient naval tactics worked alongside modern space warfare techniques. Video game strategies proved just as effective as military doctrine. When it was over, the might of the Imperial fleet had been broken. Not by superior technology or numbers, but by humanity's unique ability to combine the old with the new, the primitive with the advanced, creating something entirely unexpected. As the surviving Imperial ships retreated, James received a transmission from High Admiral Marcus. "You could have destroyed more of our ships," the alien observed. "We could have," James agreed. "But we wanted some of you to survive, to take a message back." "What message?" "That humanity isn't just another species for you to conquer. We're something new, and we're just getting started." The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had always been a place of opportunity for human miners. Now it would become the site of humanity's greatest battle yet. Commander James stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, watching the massive Imperial Armada approach. The Empire had sent 15,000 ships this time, their largest fleet ever assembled. They were done playing games. "Status of Operation Rockhopper?" James asked. Miller brought up a holographic display showing hundreds of asteroids that had been secretly modified over the past month. "Mining teams report all charges are set. Gravity drives are installed and ready." The Imperial fleet moved steadily forward, their formations spreading out to prevent the humans from using their previous tactics. They had learned from their defeats, becoming more cautious, more adaptable. But humans had been preparing something special. "They're scanning the belt," Lee reported from her station. "Looking for our ships." James nodded. "Let them look. Begin Phase 1. Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden mining ships activated their equipment. But instead of cutting into rocks for precious metals, they began breaking apart specific asteroids that had been carefully weakened over several weeks. The Imperial fleet's sensors detected the activity. Mining operations during a battle. High Admiral Marcus wondered aloud on his flagship. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't figure out what. Then the real plan became clear. Thousands of asteroid fragments, ranging from the size of cars to small buildings, began moving in strange patterns. The humans had installed tiny gravity drives on them, turning space rocks into guided missiles. "Evasive action," Marcus ordered, but it was too late. The asteroid fragments accelerated, powered by combinations of gravity drives and simple rocket boosters. Imperial ships found themselves in a deadly game of dodge, their advanced shields optimized for energy weapons, not kinetic impacts. Phase 2, James commanded calmly. The real human fleet appeared, but not where the Empire expected. They came from inside the larger asteroids, where they had been hiding in hollowed-out caves. The Empire had been scanning for ships in space between the rocks, never thinking to look inside them. "Impossible," an Imperial captain shouted as human vessels burst out of what seemed to be solid rock. They hid entire battleships inside asteroids. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Empire had ever experienced. Human ships used the asteroids as both cover and weapons. When Imperial vessels destroyed one asteroid, the fragments became more projectiles under human control. "Sir," Miller reported to James, "the Empire is adapting to our asteroid attacks. They're adjusting their shield frequencies." "Perfect," James replied. Time for Phase 3. Across the battlefield, the largest asteroids suddenly began to move. The humans hadn't just installed gravity drives on fragments. They had turned entire asteroids into massive ships. Rock faces split open to reveal engines and weapon ports, created by combining mining equipment with Imperial technology. By the first star, Marcus whispered as he watched a kilometer-wide asteroid turn and fire on his fleet. The humans had built mobile space fortresses right under their noses, disguising them as natural parts of the asteroid belt. The Imperial fleet found itself caught in a trap. Asteroid fragments blocked their retreat, while the human fleet attacked from constantly changing directions. The massive asteroid ships herded the Imperial vessels into killing zones with their gravitational fields. "Sir," Lee called out, "Admiral Marcus is sending a transmission to all ships, both Imperial and human." On every bridge in the battle, Marcus's voice rang out. "All Imperial ships, fall back immediately. I repeat, full retreat." These humans, they don't just adapt to the battlefield. They turn the battlefield itself into a weapon. As the Imperial fleet retreated in chaos, James received casualty reports. The humans had lost ships too, but the ratio was beyond anything thought possible. A fleet of a few hundred human vessels, and some cleverly used rocks, had defeated the largest armada in Imperial history. "Send word to Earth," James ordered. "Tell them the asteroid belt is secured. And tell them to prepare for what comes next." He looked out at the battlefield, where human ships were already beginning to salvage Imperial technology from destroyed vessels. Every defeat made humanity stronger as they learned and adapted and improved. "The Empire thought they were fighting primitives," James said quietly. "Instead, they taught us how to become something greater than they ever imagined." High Admiral Marcus stood before the Imperial Council again, but this time everything was different. The Grand Chamber felt cold and quiet, nothing like the confident place it had been just months ago. "Play the battle footage," he ordered. The Council watched in silence as the recording showed human ships bursting out of asteroids, turning space rocks into weapons, and defeating the Empire's greatest fleet. Several Council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "3 battles," Marcus said quietly. 3 defeats. Each time we sent a bigger fleet. Each time they beat us with something new. "They must have weaknesses," one council member insisted, but their voice shook slightly. "Weaknesses?" Marcus laughed without humor. "Let me tell you what happened after the asteroid belt battle." He pressed a button, showing new footage. 5 of our frontier worlds have already made secret trade deals with Earth. They're fascinated by human creativity. 3 more have offered Earth their technology in exchange for human innovations. The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. This had never happened before. Subject worlds were supposed to fear the Empire, not admire its enemies. "It gets worse," Marcus continued. "Our own military academies found these in their computer systems." He showed them files spreading through Imperial networks. They were human battle tactics, stories of Earth's wars, and manuals about thinking outside the box, being translated and shared by young Imperial officers. "Our own soldiers are studying them," a council member asked in horror. "Of course they are," Marcus replied. "For the first time in Imperial history, we found someone who fights better than we do. Our officers want to learn." Suddenly, alarms blared through the chamber. A young communications officer rushed in, looking pale. "High Council, we've detected anomalies in the Sol system. The humans, they're building something massive." The main display showed a construction project near Earth's moon. The Council watched as humans combined Imperial technology with their own designs in ways that should have been impossible. "What is that?" someone whispered. "That," Marcus said grimly, "is humanity taking everything they've learned from us and making it better. They're not just copying our technology anymore. They're improving it." He turned to face the Council directly. "You have a choice to make. We can send another fleet, watch it be destroyed in some new creative way we never imagined, and lose more of our subject world's respect. Or what? Asked the head council member. Or I can send a warning to every Imperial commander. Tell them the truth about humans before we lose everything. The council chamber fell silent. In 10,000 years, the Empire had never admitted defeat, had never warned its forces to avoid an enemy. But they had never faced humans before. Marcus didn't wait for their answer. He walked to the communications console and began broadcasting on all Imperial frequencies. To all Imperial fleet commanders, this is High Admiral Marcus with an emergency directive regarding the species known as humans. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage. They don't fight like we do. They don't think like we do. They turn everything, even defeat, into a weapon. If you value your ships and your crews, run. This is not a suggestion. This is a warning. He turned back to the council. I'd just saved countless Imperial lives. You can punish me for it if you want, but you know I'm right. The warning spread across Imperial space faster than any official order ever had. Ships' captains quietly changed their routes to avoid Earth's space. Colonial governors began making unofficial peace offers to human diplomats. On a dozen worlds, alien children started playing humans and Empire in their games, and they all wanted to be the humans. In his private chambers later, Marcus received a secret message from Commander James. Your warning is spreading panic through your Empire. Was that your intention? Marcus replied honestly, no. My intention was to save lives, both Imperial and human, because I've seen what happens when your people are pushed into a corner. And I don't want to find out what humanity will become if we force them to fight a total war. James's response was simple. Smart choice. As Marcus looked out at the stars, he wondered if the Empire would ever be the same. They had finally met a species that didn't just resist them. It made them question everything they thought they knew about warfare, about progress, about the future itself. Humanity wasn't just changing the galaxy's balance of power. They were changing how everyone thought about what was possible. The peace conference took place in a location that perfectly summarized humanity's journey to the stars. One of their asteroid ships, now converted into a space station. What had started as a weapon was already being turned into something new. Commander James walked through the station's corridors, noting how Imperial delegates tried to hide their fascination with the hybrid human-alien technology around them. The station shouldn't have worked. It mixed too many different technological styles, broke too many engineering rules. But like everything humans built, it worked anyway. The main conference room had been built inside what used to be a massive mining cavity. One wall was still raw asteroid rock, while the other showed off the best of human and Imperial engineering combined. High Admiral Marcus was already there, standing by the window that looked out at Earth. He turned as James entered. Beautiful planet, Marcus said. I see why your people fought so hard for it. We would have fought just as hard for an ugly one, James replied with a small smile. It's not about what something looks like. It's about it being ours. The room began filling with delegates from both sides. Imperial representatives in their perfect uniforms sat across from human delegates wearing everything from military dress to business suits to traditional cultural clothing. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. For 10,000 years, Marcus began the historic meeting. The Empire has grown by incorporating other species. We thought we knew everything about expansion, about progress, about warfare. He gestured at the human delegation. Then we met humanity. You didn't just resist us. You changed us, changed how we think about everything. James stood up next. We never wanted this war. Humanity was ready to join the galactic community peacefully, but we weren't ready to surrender our independence. And that's what makes you unique, Marcus replied. Most species we conquered saw our technology and accepted our superiority. You saw our technology and thought, we can make this better. The peace terms were unprecedented in Imperial history. Earth and its colonies would remain independent. Humanity would have free trade rights throughout Imperial space. And most surprisingly, The Empire wanted to establish joint research projects. Your creativity, an Imperial scientist explained, combined with our refined technology. Imagine what we could achieve together instead of fighting each other. As the delegates discussed details, James and Marcus stepped aside for a private conversation. Your warning changed everything, James said. Why did you really do it? Marcus looked out at the stars. I've served the Empire for 300 years. I've seen 100 species conquered. But watching your people, it was like seeing the future. He turned back to James. You turned mining tools into weapons, then turned those weapons back into tools of peace. You took our technology and reimagined it in ways we never considered. You didn't just adapt, you evolved, and you made everyone around you evolve too. A small alert sounded. More ships arriving. On the main screen, vessels from across the Empire were appearing. But they weren't warships. They were traders, scientists, diplomats, all hoping to work with the species that had done the impossible. Look at them, Marcus said. A month ago, they were afraid of humans. Now they're excited by what you might teach them. James watched the ships arrive. And the Empire is okay with this, with their subject worlds being so interested in us. The Empire is changing, Marcus admitted. Your people showed us that there's always a different way to do things, always a new possibility we hadn't considered. It's refreshing. The final treaty was signed that day. But both leaders knew the real changes were just beginning. Already, human innovations were spreading through Imperial space. Imperial technology was being reimagined in countless new ways. The rigid structures of the old empire were giving way to something new, something more dynamic. So, James said as they watched the delegates celebrate, what happens now? Now, Marcus smiled. Now we discover what happens when humanity's creativity meets the galaxy's resources. And honestly, for the first time in centuries, I have no idea what to expect. Good, James replied. Because if there's one thing humans love more than proving the impossible is possible, it's surprising everyone, including ourselves.